the April 6th regular meeting of the Harriet Tubman Elementary Virtual LSC meeting to order. The second thing on the agenda is roll call. When I call your name, please introduce yourself and your function on the board. Principal Gibson.
Kimberly Gibson, principal of Harriet Tubman.
Nick.
Nick Hall, teacher rep.
Sarah.
Sarah Ogato, parent rep.
Mac.
Mac Laboon, community rep.
Kirsten.
Kirsten Clay, parent rep.
Sharice.
Sharice Brooks, paraprofessional.
My name is Tina Holder King. I'm a parent rep on the board. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any discussion? I just want to point out that I left off the FLT fundraising agenda item in error, but I did reach out to Patty to see if she had anything. So Patty, I just want to confirm that you're all set, that we're okay with, that we don't need to add that item.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, Tina.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on the motion to approve the agenda as provided. All in favor, please use your icon to vote. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. There were minutes from both March meetings provided. We'll just do them one at a time. We'll do the regular meeting minutes first. I'll just move that the March 2nd minutes be approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the March 2nd minutes as sent to the council, please use your icon to vote. Motion passes unanimously. The second set of minutes is from the March 16th special meeting. I move that the meetings be approved as provided to the council. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll take a vote on the motion. All in favor, please use your icon and raise your hand. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Lily and Kate. Okay. The next item on the agenda is committee updates. I don't see Lori on. And I know Cindy had an emergency come up and won't be able to join us. Oh, there she is. Cindy, I was just saying you wouldn't be able to join us.
I'm sitting in my car waiting to go into urgent care.
Oh.
So I'm just listening.
Okay.
Okay.
No worries.
All right.
We just got to committee updates. Sarah, did you have any updates you'd like to speak to at this time?
No updates at this time, just letting folks know our next committee meeting is April 21st, and the meet link is on the website. Thank you to the folks who, I believe it's Charlotte, who made the update for that committee and making sure it's accessible to everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Cindy, did you have anything you'd like to update?
The Communication and Engagement Committee will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. via Zoom, and that link is on the website as well. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions or anything from the council regarding the committees? I'll just give a brief update for the evaluation committee. We did meet as the minutes approved on March 16th and came up with some additional evaluation support materials to request from Principal Gibson, and she was sent that information, that request today. With the budget having just been provided, and that being the primary topic of this meeting, we will need to have a special meeting for the principal evaluation. And based on the time that's needed to pull items together and the time for the council to review the regular items as well as the support materials, we are likely looking at the last week in April for that meeting. I will reach out to the council members to see that we can all make the meeting, but just wanted to put that bug in everyone's ear tonight. Okay. Lori, did you have any updates for ties? Oh, we lost her. Okay. We'll come back to that if needed. So the next item on the agenda, Sarah, do you have your hand raised?
Just real quick for the evaluation committee, do we have a timeline that the evaluation committee is developing, or is that already, are they thinking through that?
Well, we're going, like, we're proceeding as we discussed at the last meeting. So she has that information that we're requesting, but we still need to finish that, finish the evaluation by May 1. Now, even though we finished the evaluation, then the committee will continue to move forward with getting survey questions together so that we can still do the survey, the community survey. So we'll be getting more into that once we're done with evaluation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Lori, I think we've got you back. Lori, did you have anything for committee updates?
Yeah, I'm going to apologize. I'm at the rock climbing gym with my children, and I had this whole setup that I thought I could do, and I can't. So anyway, we had a ties meeting. Can you hear me okay? Thumbs up, because like I said, I'm sorry. I've got a soundtrack tonight, so we're gonna groove with it. We had our ties meeting on Tuesday night. We want to thank case manager Rebecca Rosenberg for appearing and giving a great presentation on what she does, what's an IEP, what's a 504. And then the community had a really great kind of like a brainstorming session and talking about what we would love to see as parents and caregivers of kids with IEPs and 504. So that was really great. Our next meeting, I believe, is it's the second Tuesday in May. And that one we're hoping to, we're inviting the assistive tech person from CPS and hopefully our school speech therapist, Ms. Vic Nicholas. So that group is going strong. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the principal report. Principal Gibson.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off with our mission. our vision, and next I will read a letter from Senator Sarah Fagenholtz, dated April 6, 2022. Unfortunately, she was invited to this meeting but is unable to attend. Dear Principal Kimberly Gibson and LSC members, a quick note of thanks for the hard work you are doing through the most challenging 2 years ever. Everything that the LSC, Principal Gibson, parents, and CPS do to keep students on a forward path does not go unnoticed. We are in the final weeks of the legislative session, finalizing the 2023 fiscal year budget. Some of the budget highlights include a $350 million increase for K through 12 education, $54 million for early childhood, and $300 million for child care grants. Should you have a need to communicate concerns, please feel free to call my office. Until then, thank you again for all you do. We can be reached by phone at 773-296-4141 or by email at sarah@senatorsarah.com. Very truly yours, Sarah Fiegenholtz. Tubman School. Be respectful, be responsible, be safe, be IB. IB. Ms. Perillas will now give the IB report.
Hi, everybody. These are just some highlights from the last month or so of school. Our fifth grade students, as some of you may know, will be transitioning from PYP to MYP. And so one of the important milestones in their PYP journey is something called the PYP exhibition that has begun. The exhibition, for those of you that have been with us for a little while, mirrors the 8th grade community project, which the 8th graders complete at the end of their MYP journey at Tubman. So our PYP students are in the process of identifying passions or interests that they're also making connections to sort of local and global issues. And they will be working with me and their 5th grade teachers from, we started last week through the end of the school year on essentially what will become their passion project. So all 5th grade students moving forward at Tubman as part of our IB program will do something called an exhibition project. And it really is intended to help them sort of encapsulate the learning that they've had in the last number of years in the PYP program, and also to prepare them for their transition into MYP. So that leads me to the MYP community project, which is something that our 8th grade students have also been involved in. They started that, I would say, about a month ago, perhaps later than that. I'm not exactly sure of the exact timeline, but the exhibition coordinators are Ms. Speaker, Ms. McNally, and Ms. Robertson. So they're working with the 8th grade students, again, on identifying issues that are present in the local or global community. And the intent of the community project is for the students to take meaningful action in the community. And so something that will be coming home soon, either through Tuesday Followers or through various communications, is the various projects that the students are doing. Many of them will be intended to, will include collecting donations for various causes that are important to the students. And so just stay tuned for that information. And then just the last big thing that will be happening as we move into the end of April is our annual Give Back Week. This is something that I started in the school about 4 years ago. For those of you that have been with us, initially it had been an opportunity for our students to go out into the community and to volunteer at various organizations or local preschools, and or to do things in our local community. When we had COVID, the last couple of years through COVID, we've switched to sort of a virtual Give Back Week and scale down what those efforts have looked like. And we are excited that this year, many of our students are going to be back out in the community on various walking field trips volunteering to do community and park cleanups. And in addition, we have several classrooms working with the Anti-Cruelty Society this year. They will be engaged in a virtual tour of the organization. Our kindergartners will be participating in a virtual story time with the Anti-Cruelty Society with the intent of helping kids understand how to take care of pets. And there will be a variety of other activities. And then that week also marks the week that we'll be collecting donations for our 8th grade community projects. So we really, through PYP, from PYP through MYP, we're really focused on having students take action in the community. And then, you know, our school as a whole will be doing something that last week of April.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farillas. Now we will have our counselor updates. Ms. Weaver.
Okay, students are continuing to complete their individual learning plan for the school year through Naviance. So for 6th grade, we're going to be working on my beliefs and values. For 7th, we're going to be doing the clear cluster finder. For 8th, we're doing meeting a mentor in my career of interest. Social emotional learning, whole classroom lessons are continuing. Pre-K and 4th grade, I went and did an emotions activity, and I ended with a glitter jar activity. 3rd grade, we did a lessons on respect. In K, 1st and 2nd, we did how to be a good friend. Doing a small group. I started a small group for some students with anxiety, and I am doing check-in, check-out with some students as well.
Thank you, Ms. Beaker. And now we will have case manager updates. Ms. Rosenberg.
Hello, everyone. Some updates for me is that starting after spring break, we will have a new GL teacher and a paraprofessional start. And so that's very exciting. This last week, the MTSS team met with Merrick Van Ellis from the network to go over Branching Minds. And Branching Minds is a program that we started using this year, but we'll be implementing it more next year. And it is for us to document interventions that are being done throughout the school, and it is connected to STARS 360 that the students are taking. And then April 25th will be our next case manager meeting for Network 4. And then as Lori had stated last night, we had a TIES meeting where I was the guest speaker, and it was really great to just sit and talk with parents in a more like informal way about IEPs and 504s and interventions at our school, and just really have like an open conversation of questions for what they had, you know, about their students and about our school, but also about things post-school, such as high school, and really gave me things that I should follow up on to really help support our parents and the concerns that they have. So I appreciate TIES for inviting me, and it was a really great experience. You know, we're ending the end of 3rd quarter. And so just a reminder that all students with IEPs will receive an IEP report card along with their regular report cards. So hopefully we'll see all of you there at report card pickup, either virtually or in person. And then we are continuously meeting with clinicians and the BHT team to talk about our students, whether it's their IEP services or upcoming meetings or behavioral concerns. And so that is my update for this evening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenberg. Now we will have Mr. Hall, who will give our PPLC update as the chair.
Thank you, Principal Gibson. So PPLC updates, math curriculum, that's our biggest update. So we are, as a PPLC, formally recommending both budgeting and adopting Envision as Tubman's K through 8th grade math curriculum for the next school year. So as a quick reminder, we started this process back in December, kind of looking at what other schools were using, surveying our staff and teachers on what was working and not working with our current curriculums, which were My Math and Connected Math. Then in January, we had Carlos from Network 4 came and presented both to the ILT and grade level teams the various math curriculum that we had inquired about, especially what other schools were using both in our network and in CPS in general, and what was successful. Then we got some samples, sample lessons and materials from each, and in GLTs, the teachers had several more opportunities to kind of take a look at different sample lessons, try lessons out if they wanted to look at materials. And then finally, last week, the teachers all agreed on Envision as our school-wide math curriculum, and that was one really important thing. We had found that with the two different math curriculum, one for PYP, one for MYP, the transition from 5th to 6th grade for the students in math was very challenging. So we're hoping having one math curriculum will help with that. Also, we really like the fact that Envision offers both analog and digital platforms, and the professional development for all staff members is also included when we budget for it. So that is our math curriculum. And now we're moving on to our SEL curriculum, starting to look at options for the next school year. So we use a variety currently at Tubman, but there's not like one set standard. The two big ones are Second Step and Restorative Classroom. And responsive, sorry, classroom. And then we're also going to be exploring just different opportunities for staff development, both over the summer and for next year. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, April 27th at 3 p.m. And that is it for our PPLC updates.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. So our CIWP buckets of work is social emotional learning, as you heard, student voice and engagement, curriculum, and multi-tier systems of support. We keep that in mind as we plan for our budget. Internal accounts, as of 3/31, we had a total of $235,405.76. Majority of the funds were raised from FOT. Now, prior to this meeting, every member of the council received a copy of the 7-page budget update, the budget handout that we received from the district. I will give budget updates and then preview some of the things that were in the budget handout to share with our community. So one of the things we're working on is spending all SBB funds, making sure that any funds that need to be spent down are spent down, and preserving any rollover or reserve funds. We've also sent out communication to all our CTU members so they will spend their annual funds, or they have the option of donating it back to the school. There is a deadline in May to create purchase orders, so that is our spend deadline. April 18th, we will be requesting a special LSC meeting to review the budget. The budget has not yet been approved yet, as well as approved budget transfers. We are continuing corrections from the transition audit, specifically concentrating on book transfers and journal entries and internal accounts. We voted on that last month. This past Friday, me and the clerk met with the head of internal accounts, and the work is more than what we thought. They had to look in on the lines to see how some of the grants were allocated prior to us being allowed to create the book transfer. So you will get an update at the next May meeting. May LSC meeting. There will also be many more budget transfers for the end of the year. Enrollment. Our enrollment is only 7 fewer than our baseline in K through 8 currently. Operational funds are tighter this year than they've ever been because we were held accountable for our 20th day enrollment of 362 students. No worries though, we do have our internal accounts intact to support deficits that may arise. We still have funds to support our professional learning plan. And as always, we will continue to keep children as the focus of our decision. I want to spend a little time explaining the funds prior to us getting to the budget handout because some people might not be familiar with it. 115 funds are local funds. These are funds that we control. 115 are supplemental aid funds. These are funds provided by the state. And Title I funds. These are funds provided by the federal government. Funds that we do not control. Diverse learner services, foundational positions listed in 115, such as principal, counselor, clerk, bilingual, Magnet, GiftNet, IB, JROTC, food service, and security. In our budget handout, this is our enrollment as of the 20th day. I want you guys to take a look at it and look at our different grade levels. These numbers will guide our planning as we decide how many classes for the school year 23. Discretionary funds summary. This is a chart where you can see our 22 allocations and our school year 23 allocations. You will notice that Tubman Elementary has a $230,016 deficit, less than last year. This impacts our positions. 99% of our SBB is to fund our staff positions. Supplemental aid. And our Title II to reduce class size. In Table 3, in addition to those 200, almost 50,000 in budget cuts, there were also position cuts by the district. These are centrally funded positions. I'll give you a few minutes to look at the chart.
Excuse me, Principal Gibson. Kate, did you have a question specific to the last slide?
I just looking at that, the numbers on the last slide, I just was asking.
We can't, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
That's a little better.
Sorry. I just looking at the last slide and looking at like the deficit that we're talking about. My question was, if we have some drop in enrollment just because people who are planning on leaving, going to the suburbs, maybe us not being able to get as many students to replace families not leaving, things like that, will those numbers look different based on our day 20 attendance? Or are those numbers, are they trying to stick to those numbers?
Those are our current numbers, but as enrollment goes up in the fall, there can be additional allocations.
Okay.
Based on SBB.
Okay.
All right, so in this Table 3, you might notice that we did lose a special ed position was cut by the district, as well as a bilingual 0.5 position. You might also know a new position is created by the district. It is called the core instructional position. That is for interventionists to address unfinished learning and interventions with all students in K through 8. Table 4 shows SBB funding details a little bit more in depth as a breakdown of the different grade levels. Again, centering on that 362 student enrollment.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
In this slide where it, for the fiscal year 22 allocation, where it lists the one-time enrollment adjustment, is that the adjustment that happened? Yeah, I guess where does that adjustment come in? Is that the one you were speaking of a moment ago, that it may come in the fall? Or do you know what that?
So they actually kind of are suggesting that that allocation is coming up, and they're trying to hold us, they're using that amount of our enrollment from the previous year.
So this is the initial allocation for 23 with the idea that given where we stand on our 20th day, that they'll readjust that allocation, just for clarity.
Yes. Next slide. Table 5 shows our supplemental aid funding. This is based off our free and reduced lunch. Yes, Kate?
Has our free and reduced lunch percentage gone down a lot the last few years? Has it been an issue of getting kids to fill out the forms? Because I thought we used to be at like 40 or 45%. I just remember when I did tours, that was one of the numbers that I thought was out there. That seems like a small percentage. Anybody know?
I can't hardly hear her. Can somebody repeat what she said? I'm sorry.
sorry,
It was
I can't hear
really
you either,
hard.
Kate.
It goes in and out, so I'm sorry.
I am so sorry. I never have trouble with the setup. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just wondering if with the 2 years of pandemic craziness and probably people not turning in a lot of their forms and things like that, did we see a drop in our percentage eligible for free or reduced meals go down because forms didn't come back with virtual school or things like that? Just because I remember those numbers being higher, that seems like a small percentage, and it affects our federal funds. So I was just wondering if we know where we used to be and if it maybe was an issue of getting parents to complete forms with all of the COVID craziness.
So that's a good question, Kate. No, that wasn't the issue. The forms were completed, but if you look at the numbers in school year 2021 going to 2022, we were not held accountable, so they just went by the enrollment of 438. For school year 23, they're only going by the 362 students that were on our 20th day. That's the difference. And that's also the percentage of students who may have been on reduced or free meals that possibly transferred out as well. That's also a factor. The next table shows on our 20th day and in April, I mean, not in April, I'm sorry, in the beginning of January, when the state pulled our data, we had a total of 19 ELL students. We actually lost funding because to qualify for 0.5, you need a total of 20 ELL students. Now, I'm going to share some things. There's some updates that are not on this slide. Some of the actions that we have done is the minute we saw this budget, we went into action mode. We appealed both the 0.5 position that was cut as well as the DL position. The 0.5 was upheld because of the numbers and is funded by the state. So it is a state determination of how the bilingual position is allocated. Now, what the chief of OSA shares is that if our numbers change in October, we're able to appeal again. In the meantime, we are planning to use funds from our internal accounts using our strategic plan to fund that position to make sure that all of our students have what they need. Another update is I just heard back from ODLSS and we won our appeal. So that position that we lost, we were able to win it in the appeal. It has not yet been allocated to our budget, but we won the appeal again, thanks to support from our staff here at Tubman, district reps, and me appealing to the district, showing them that our students really, really need this support here at Tubman. We will be meeting with the network chief to approve the budget. Again, we're waiting for them to allocate that new position we were just awarded for DL. We will meet with LSC to approve the budget. There's a proposed date of April 18th. The district deadline is the 19th. We are planning to fund the Envision Math curriculum for school year 23 for K through 8th, as well as the professional development. We are working really hard. An issue that we're struggling with finalizing the budget is our quotes for recess and the recess contract. So I don't know if you guys are all aware, but we were grandfathered in with JS School for $25,000 for the whole school year. This current school year, they have been charging other schools approximately $25,000 per quarter. I am in negotiations with them, as well as Right at School and other recess and after school programs to find the best program for our students and one that is financially realistic. I am working with the staff to select school-wide SEL curriculum, as you heard in the PPLC update. We will be meeting on April 21st during grade level team meetings, where staff will fill out surveys about SEL. We'll begin suggestions of various SEL curriculums, and then we will be inviting the Network for SEL to Tubman to share information so we can finalize a SEL curriculum that we will use school-wide for the 23 school year. We are also continuing to review and update CIWP priorities with our CIWP team. If you are a parent rep, we will be needing to meet with you soon to go over and just update that CIWP work as we move and continue on with that work into the next school year. As you may have heard during our case manager report, we hired an additional SPED teacher and ESP with assistance from the Tubman Hiring Committee, and they will start on 4/18/2022. We're continuing to work on building staff culture and school culture, continuing ongoing communications and partnerships with families. We will be using existing funds from FOT and our internal accounts to fund the 0.5 bilingual position that was cut with the LSC approval. And we will continue to explore various options to fund the restorative justice coordinator position, including MFT funds or funds from our internal account by reaching into our reserves with our FOT. Principal competencies. For the past month, these are the principal competencies that I've worked on. Conducted classroom pop-ins, appeal bilingual and DL position cuts with the district, develop actionable steps to address budget deficits using strategic plan and funds in our internal accounts. Powerful professional learning, plan PD for staff during weekly grade level team meetings, IB trainings for staff and administrators. I did receive a third certification during the month of March, and I attended monthly PLCs for administrators with the fund as well as with Network 4, ISILs, and administrative meetings. College and career readiness. I supported students and families with the principal discretion process, wrote letters of recommendations for students for high school, the counselor report on Naviance, and supporting students in navigating the high school decision process. Ongoing family and community. I've continued to host monthly principal conversations. This past month, we had just a listening conversation where parents could just express any concerns or ideas or share anything that they wanted to share with us. We publish bi-monthly community blasts, and I deliver a principal report at the monthly LSC meetings as well as monthly FOT meetings. Self-disciplined thinking and action. I meet monthly with a CPS new principal coach for coaching and leadership. I'm continuing to meet and receive additional support from network chiefs in areas of growth as well as areas of celebration. And I meet weekly with my CPS mentor from Oscar Mayer to engage and reflect the practice and develop actionable steps for continuous improvement in my leadership. Questions and discussions.
Nick and then Sarah, please.
Yeah, I had a quick question about the district's deadline to approve the budget. So I know, obviously, if it's due the 19th, then obviously we can meet the 18th. Do you know, Kimberly, from any conversations with the network, will they maybe extend that? It just seems very unrealistic to require a deadline 2 days after spring break. And I know ever since we've gotten the budget numbers, like various teams at Tubman and with the network, like we've all been working on this. And it just seems very unfair to try to rush this through by the 19th of April. So if you had any inclination, will it be extended maybe? That would be
So
awesome.
I'm just letting you know there's a group of principals that I am working with, and it's especially new principals, right? We need time to digest this. We need time to meet with our LSC, and we feel time crunched. We are requesting to our district leaders that they do extend it. At this time, I don't know of any extension that's going to be granted, but I am going to the network tomorrow. So I am being called into the network, and I am hoping they extend it because currently they are still doing appeals. They are awarding appeals. So currently I don't have enough money to balance out our positions that we have, right? And we have to make sure all the positions are set. So even though I'm meeting the budget, I don't see how it can be finalized unless they do something drastic over spring break. And it's still not giving council members and administrators enough time to meet, discuss the budgets. If anything needs to be adjusted, it's a really tight timeline. So that's why I tried to go over the budget report and share the handout with you guys in advance, so you'll have all of that information prior, just so our meeting will just be narrowing down the things that the budget is spent on for approval. I'm hoping that helped, but I will continue to advocate. And anyone else who wants to help write the district leaders, please help email them.
Sarah.
Thank you. I had a couple questions for a few folks who presented. Thank you for sharing the great work that's happening at Tubman. Uh, so my first question is really geared towards the counselor and case manager team, if I can call it that. I'm wondering if you can speak to or how you see the work that you're doing as it relates to supporting students. You know, Ms. Speaker, you outlined in your PowerPoint all the things that you're doing, which I deeply appreciate, and deeply appreciate Ms. Rosenberg, what you're doing. But just wanted to kind of see how you all see that work aligning to the CIWP more particularly. I do appreciate what I see in the PPLC presentation. You know, the targets are clearly there. You can kind of see that alignment. But I'm curious to kind of see how that support team sees how their work is connected to the CIWP from their perspective, and then also if any of that work extends into supports for teachers more particularly. I'll pause there because I also had a question with the PPLC. So I'll just pause there. Thank you.
I'll go first. So I just focus mostly on SEL. So I do pre-K to 8. So I go into every classroom and do large group lessons. And then through BHT, the behavior health team, which is tier 2 and 3 interventions, which are referrals from teachers, we get assigned, they get assigned providers. So I work with some of my BHT students in a small group or individually, depending on the need, or if they can partner up with a student with similar needs. So lot of small groups, a lot of SEL lessons. Before I go in and do the lesson, I talk with the teacher about the need for their classroom, just so I make sure that the time I'm using is effective for them. And then just anything that teachers reach out that they might need SEL related, which is, part of the CIWP is that SEL support whole group, small group, individual, tier 1, 2, 3. And I always stress to the kids, like, I'm pre-K at 8, so I'm like, if you're wondering if I'm your counselor, I am. So just making sure they know who I am. I'm going monthly, so they get familiar with me. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I'll let Rebecca go next.
Hi, Sarah. I'm sorry. I missed the first part of your question. Were you just asking about what I do as MTSS coordinator and interventions? I'm sorry. I heard the end of your question, not the first part.
Oh, that's okay. It was really more or less saying, how do you see your work aligning to the CIWP? And as we have it in place, but then also thinking about how you see what the needs are for the CIWP as we move forward into next year. Just kind of curious onto how you see the work that you're doing aligning to our continuous improvement work plan.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I think that this year, with coming back from COVID, there's lots of students that are coming at all different levels. And so what's been really great this year is being able to meet with like the interventionists as well as classroom teachers to sort of see what the needs are for their classrooms and really working on like what does tier support look like in your room, what students need to be pulled out to get sort of more like intense one-on-one or like two-on-one support for a period of time on a daily basis and seeing are they able to make growth. And so we've been able to really see students who have been in tier 3 who are getting like more intense support. And then after like six weeks or however long that we're doing that kind of support, being able to sort of move away from that tier 3 intense instruction and are able to go back and do like tier 2 instruction within their classroom with their teacher. Because I think that a lot of people are seeing that their students are at different levels from like their classmates and like that some students just need more support. It doesn't mean that they need to, have an IEP or have, a learning disability. It just means that they might need more, a little more support within the classroom and that they're able to make growth with given that support. And it's been really great, like meeting with, classroom teachers and interventionists and talk about the students that they are struggling and figuring out ways that they can get support in the classroom and really brainstorming what kids need, what kind of support to really best support the needs in the classroom. And so I've really seen some growth this year and it's a work in progress. And I think we're going to continue to see, this progress being done with like the MTSS committee, as well as working with Merrick from the network to sort of help provide some support of documentation. So it really, is aligning with like watching student growth and also really supporting students for where they're at and what kind of needs do they need based on like what the classroom teacher can give, if there's a co-teacher in the classroom or intervention support. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And I guess then my second part is kind of, thank you for your presentation with the PPLC. I appreciate seeing kind of the work that's happening with the math and SEL, which we know is definitely needed. As it relates to SEL and then hearing what was shared by Ms. Speaker and Ms. Rosenberg, is there some cross conversations we're having just around the support students are getting from this our counselor and our and Rosenberg, and then what those supports and that curriculum that teachers are using in a way. I'm just kind of curious to kind of see how this work is kind of, it's just some interconnectedness here and this, and then of course, how that translates like, for families. And I think about our ties committee. So I'll just pause there.
And Michelle, I can answer sort of that question.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm on the PPLC and I'm on the behavioral health team. And in the behavioral health team consists of me, Ms. Speaker, Ms. Harden, our social worker, Ms. Moore, as well as our school nurse and our school psychologist. And, you know, we talk about some of these SEL components at PPLC because it is a concern, like it's something that we're looking at a whole school level. But it's also something we're talking about at the behavioral health team. So I'm able to take information back that's discussed from PPLC to the behavioral health team. And then I'm also able to take behavioral health team information and share with the PPLC. So it is, you know, us all kind of collaborating and talking about how to best support like the social emotional growth and learning at our school, and really looking at what is the best material and what things that we can be using as a school to help support our students with their social emotional needs. We've also met with our network SEL person as a team, and she's been helping support us with, you know, curriculum that we can use and sort of finding something that's appropriate for our school to use.
So, Ms. Rosenberg, you're identifying the SEL curriculum and letting the teachers. I mean, I just you're taking the lead on that work.
I'm not. I'm just like sharing information. This is something that we've been talking about, you know, really closely the last couple of months with Ms. Gibson, with Ms. Moore, you know, with both of those teams, to really see what's out there that's offered by CPS, and what really we have access to, and what other, you know, schools in our network use, you know, beyond the second step that we have access to see if there's anything else that is, you know, appropriate for like the whole school. It's a continuous conversation that we are looking at in all these different committees and all these different people to see what's a good fit for us and also what's available. So it's a continuous conversation that we've had. There's like no answer at this current moment, but it is something that's a discussion, you know, as we did with like the math curriculum, we're seeing what is available and what we have access to. And then, you know, once we have that information, we can look into, you know, what we want to use for our school.
Thank you. And just to add on, I would just encourage and ask that we think about not a curriculum that's, you know, something that can easily, you know, that supports students, of course, but there's also supports for teachers as well as families, so that it extends into all levels, because I do think it takes. So I would be remiss if I didn't also kind of ask about reading, because I know that's something that is definitely, we have a number of families who advocate for what those supports look like, and I didn't hear that that work on the PPLC. So I'm just curious if Nikki can speak to that. And then last question, I apologize, is budget. You know, from the PPLC's perspective, what are those kind of bottom line budget kind of or needs, I think, from the work that you're looking at or doing for next year and finishing up this year, I guess, or I would say next year because we're looking at next year.
So obviously with reading, obviously we know that is a concern. From, you know, there's stuff to look at, like obviously, right? With the PPLC, our priority was the math first because that does run out, our contract does run out this year. So that was something we had to find, you know, either we renew what we had or we find something new, which we did. And then with the SEL, because SEL is its own priority, own strategy in the CIWP, that does guide a lot of what the PPLC does. It really is, you know, connected to CIWP and budget. And then reading, we're going to curriculum. So again, you know, I think now that we feel comfortable with math, obviously at our next meeting, we will continue with SEL, but we can start talking about the reading. And I know it's not necessarily as, you know, fast as people want us to get through things, but we also want to do a thorough job. As far as budgeting, obviously, just having the conversations with Principal Gibson. So she is going to be attending our next PPLC meeting to share, you know, how in the budget, things like the math curriculum, how we're getting to those things, and SEL, you know, professional development on SEL, like where is the money for professional development for staff members and community. So we are working closely with Principal Gibson on that, and kind of another pair of eyes on the budget, for lack of a better term. So it really is all a team effort. I will also add, for example, that several of the PPLC members are also on the ILT which has been reviewing the CIWP multiple times this year. So again, there's lots of checks and balances and kind of going through things several times. Hopefully that answers it. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry, Sarah, were you done?
Thank you.
Okay, Lori.
All right, big test on my new mic. Can you hear me? Yes, great. See, I'm feeling like I feel very professional right now. Thank you, Principal Gibson. You clearly you anticipated a bunch of my questions. So those were already handled. Thank you so much for coming back about diverse learner teacher, the 0.5 for those kids. So I have two things, actually three. One, PPLC, because one of the things that it was a great, for those of you who missed it, the parent meeting was pretty cool with the principal on Friday because it was a listening session, which to me is just, we could just call it a big brainstorming session. And there was lots of great topics brought up, but one of them was like, well, okay, so we're talking about all these things as parents with the principal. How do we communicate with the teachers more and with those teams? And I was wondering, because I was looking through the website, is PPLC open? It has a public participation. Is that a meeting that parents could attend? So that's my first question.
Yes, Lori, it is. So it is on the website. I usually try to put our agenda up. I might have forgotten last month. It is on the LSC page. It's kind of the bottom of the LSC page because the PPLC is an advisory panel to the LSC. Yeah, so the dates are all there. We meet right after school, obviously, and I usually put a meet link. So, if obviously you can't attend in person, would be a virtual option. And we do allocate 10 minutes of each meeting for public participation. So yes, that is an open meeting to everyone.
That's crazy exciting. I think that parents will be, because I was like, wait a minute. So that's super cool. Just what we need another meeting, but it would be great because I think that the parents always love to hear. And then plus, I think that your team does such great work. And I think that, you get to share a little bit of it in these meetings, but I think that there are parents who would like to just be able to listen and see what you do. So the next thing is, Principal Gibson, you kind of hinted at it. Why is CPS not fully funding our schools? So I just want people to understand that CPS gave us $42 million in budget cuts, but they still have $370 million that they're sitting on. So I'm putting a link in here for a petition that if anybody's interested to sign, I have it in chat, that we're talking about fully funding our schools because we're standing here in a place of privilege. Principal Gibson is doing a great job of coming back and asking for more money. We have those friends of funds, we have saved money, so we are able to do that, but not all schools are going to be able to do that. And we all know that everybody, even through like no fault of our own, our enrollments are going down. So this is going to continue to happen. And one of the things I've always said is what we allow to continue is what's going to continue. So there is a petition here. I would like to ask the LSC to consider, if you remember, we kind of sent out a statement when we were talking about schools being back in person or things and writing a statement. Many LSCs will be presenting just a statement requesting that CPS fully fund all of our schools. And that is something that we should consider because there will be mass actions from LSCs putting it out there. Again, they're sitting on $370 million. And they've got so much of that funding that was the emergency funding. Where's that gone? And why are we not seeing that? And in the state of what's happening right now, we shouldn't be fighting for scraps, which is what CPS is trying to do. So the survey's in there, and there will be, I'm sure, parent-led actions that staff could become, not staff, well, you guys could become involved too, but parents and the LSC could be involved in.
Thank you, Laura. Is that it? Okay. Kate?
Hi, can everybody hear me now? I went and got my own headset so people can hear me. So I just had a question. I think looking at the budget, there's going to be a lot of challenging decisions to make, and I think with the budget, with the cuts that we're facing, I guess just talking to a lot of parents and principals and assistant principals at other schools, I feel like everyone is kind of worried about what September looks like and what enrollment numbers will look like because so many schools have are facing this problem. And so I guess my question is, do we have a budget with what we hope is going to happen with maintain enrollment at right where it is right now, or increasing enrollment because we get some new students to fill some of those spots that were lost with the pandemic? But do we also need to have a kind of worst case scenario plan that if we do see further drops in enrollment, that it doesn't catch us by surprise and that we are kind of ready for what we would do in those situations? Because that's the one thing that makes me nervous, is kind of having a plan to use the FOA funds for existing and then not having any buffer if we end up having lower enrollment than anticipated without CPS kind of filling the gap like they did this year for a lot. I think they did it just to maintain the budgets the same. I agree with Lori. I want them to fully fund our schools. I hope that all the actions will lead to that, but I'm a disaster planner. That's just how my brain works. And I just want to make sure that we're not planning on using our squirreled away funds for present state, and that maybe we're planning on using those squirreled away funds for if things are worse than we anticipate on day 20.
Kate, that is a very, very good question you asked. I want to start off by saying first, I'm the mother of 10 children. So I always learn to plan for A, B, and C with money. I don't know if you heard me when I gave the presentation far as us funding a bilingual position. Our hope is plan A, that we have another student by the 20th day and we're at 20. And then the district will fund that position from October on. So we'll only be funding that position, technically saving that person's job and getting the resources our students need for August, September to October to the 20th day. Worst case scenario is, suppose we don't get that 20th student. The money that we have right now, that's our money that's in internal accounts. Any of the fundraising that we did this year, I have not asked FOT to turn that money over because that's that money we squirrel away to help us plan for the next school year. So we still have a nest egg of money.
Thank you. Sarah?
Principal Gibson, just a quick question. With regards to, I saw you mentioned this core instructional position. Is this a permanent position? Is this coming from ARP? Do we know what the funding sources for that position and exactly what that position is ascribed to do, and how that may impact, other positions that maybe we're looking to lose? I'm not sure. Just curious to know more about that position and its funding source.
That is a really, really good question, Sarah. Thank you for asking that question because I forgot to share a little bit more about that position. As you guys know, you saw the deficit, and you know that we have deficit in salaries, right? When you looked at the SBB funds, we have a deficit there. What we try to do is really analyze and see who we could promote within instead of posting that as a new position. So we already have a current teacher that works in our school experience who wanted to take on that role and move out of the classroom. And that position is of a coach and interventionist. It's specifically to work on those tier 1, supporting teachers with tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction. This year, currently, Ms. Rosenberg was our 0.5 interventionist. We actually had a 0.5. The district is funding that position. Currently, I can't tell you a timeline of how long they're funding it, but they are funding it for the next school year.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Principal Gibson. One question, I'm sorry, did anyone else have any questions? One question I was wondering about is the restorative practice coordinator position. I know that was unexpectedly cut, I guess, and a lot of the CIWP leans on that position. So just wondering the status of that.
So currently, to save all of the positions that we currently have, we're looking at the numbers of our enrollment and projecting how many classes per grade level based off that number. We're trying not to go past in the early grades past 28 to 29 students in the classroom. And for the higher grades, we're trying to stay between 31 and 36, but we know we don't want classrooms full of 36 students. One of the proposals that I am looking into, and I'm going to talk to the district about tomorrow, is will we be allowed to use moving forward together funds if we write a proposal for that position? That is a very important position to fund. And I'm just thinking of any creative ways. I definitely will need the staff as well as the LSC to share ideas of how to ensure we fund that position. It is very important because it's in our CIWP. It's part of our SEL. It's part of the restorative practice that we are trying to get training, not only for our staff, for our students, but also our families, to train our families of what restorative practice and how will it look like and how they can support the school in that. So that is a key situation that we haven't figured out yet. So we're still working to figure that out. I don't know if we could possibly use funds if we get the bilingual position. That's one of the plans. We're still thinking and trying to figure that out.
Thank you, Principal Gibson. Lori?
How do we need?
Can you say that
So-
again? I didn't quite understand you.
How much money do we need to fund that position? And want to know that, is this something that we could just start asking, hey, Sarah Feingold? I mean, there's ways to, if we have to fundraise for it, this seems like a really powerful position. And we could, again, we got a lot of marketing experience people in our school that it can be, hey, we went through this name change. We're doing all of this amazing work, but we need your help. So I was just wondering, do we know ballpark, what would that position cost?
We actually do. So I reached out to HR to ask a description for the job description through CPS as well as position. It pays anywhere between 50 to 65,000, depending on the person's experience and education.
Sarah, then Kate.
Thank you, Tina. I just wanted to echo your sentiment about the need for that position. I do think that given kind of where we are and where we've been, that position is really important and for a number of reasons. But I ultimately feel like it really is in play and can help the school grow as it relates to how we build our school culture climate, how we move into fulfilling our goals around equity. And so I just think this is a critical position, and would look forward to doing some strategic thinking about how we can ensure that position is filled, not just for this year, but for many years to come.
Thank you, Sarah. Kate? You're on mute, hon.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Just looking at the current numbers of students in each of the grade levels, just you were saying, like with looking at the current number of students and how many classrooms we're going to need and those kinds of things. So is it possible that we would not take a lot of new students at a certain grade level and maybe have one classroom in the grades where there's lower enrollment, as opposed to trying to fill all of those seats to have two well-filled classrooms? Is that something that's on the table right now?
It actually is, Kate, and I'll be discussing it at the network tomorrow for 2 grade levels at our school.
Okay, it was said, and I just kind of wanted to make sure that I was hearing that correctly.
Lori?
How would that affect IEPs? I mean, there's a limit on how many IEPs that you can have in a classroom, and I know some grades are quite full with splitting up with two. Is there any potential that that would be a problem?
So that's something we look at when we meet with the network chief, and it's 70 to 30% is the rule. Also, some of our classrooms could possibly be an inclusion classroom. Some of those 1 grade classrooms might have a special education teacher, gen ed teacher, as well as a seeker in that classroom to support the needs of the students. So those are all things that we are considering while we're making those decisions.
Thank you, Principal Gibson. Did anyone else have any questions regarding the principal report? Okay.
Can I just
Go ahead.
ask one more question? So this is kind of the complicated process of us saying how many seats that we have open. Have we already offered a lot of those spots to students that are going to be getting that letter on April 29th for those grade levels, or has that yet to be decided?
That
How
hasn't
many
been
we're
announced.
taking?
We have to wait till April 29th till the letters go out. So I have no idea as far as our Go CPS currently right now. That information is not at our hands. So I'm planning with the numbers that the budget that they gave us for 362, but understanding that we will get kids in. Like right now, we don't know how many kindergarten students we will have for next year, right? We don't know that number. There's multiple factors, but you asked the question of what else can we do besides just using all of our reserve? If we get more students through Go CPS through the first round, that will help us get more SBB funds, as well as if we have opening seats in some of the other classrooms, we can open up a second round for Go CPS.
But you guys already have like said to CPS, like we would take this many people from this grade and this many people from that grade. Like that's part of how many people get accepted or get offered a seat at Tubman, correct?
Looking at space and as part of the conversation with the office enrollment, yes, correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to budget transfers. Principal Gibson, did you have any transfers for today?
So far as the budget transfers, we don't have any to report because it's still ongoing with the internal account specialist for CPS.
Okay, thank you. This brings us.
Oh, I do have one more thing. I'm sorry.
no
I'm so
problem.
sorry. I forgot in my report. Ms. Perillas had shared about some of our students are engaged in NYP projects. And so a group of our students would like to propose a fundraiser to collect $200 for the homeless to do care bags. They want to put jars in all of the classrooms, change for change, for people to donate change to make a change in someone else's life. And I would like the council to approve that fundraiser tonight.
Okay, since we don't have fundraising on the agenda, I'm glad you raised that as part of your principal report. Because we don't want to needlessly keep the kids waiting. Is there a motion?
I motion to approve the Change for Change fundraiser for the 8th grade project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that, I'm sorry, I was looking down. Was that Mac or Nick?
That was Mac.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, please use your icon to vote. The motion carries unanimously. All right. That brings us to old business, which the first time is public participation. Nick, did we have anyone sign up?
Yes, we do. We have 7 public participants who have signed up tonight.
Okay, Mac, if you would, please. If you're talking, Mac, you're on mute.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize my camera was off. All right, members of the public are welcome to make comments and to ask questions, but must sign in to participate. The public is called upon to speak in the order in which they sign in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on the comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly and, if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a later date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions, when necessary, more time may be needed to adequately address a particular problem. For speakers, when you're speaking, I'll say 10 seconds, and then at time, I'll just say time. Thanks so much.
Okay, first up, we have Karen Bass-Ehler. I don't see Karen, but I see Russ is here.
Yes,
Karen
hi,
Bass-Ehler?
this is Karen. Yes, this is Karen. Hi, everyone. Sorry, was having some major technical difficulties, so Russ joined.
We're both here, just being clear.
But I'm gonna be the one talking. Let me see if I can turn on the camera from his phone too. Okay. Oh, and now you can see our rest of our dessert. Okay, that's not working. Sorry, not used to Russ's phone. Okay, everyone, we'll just talk. Sorry, this is my 3 minutes. Okay, a few things. One, I just want to thank you all, teachers, staff, parents, caregivers, community members, for all your efforts this year. This has been, and from what I hear from other educators and leaders, in many ways a harder year than last year, than the 2020-2021 year. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for all you've done to make it a wonderful year for my children, who wouldn't know that it's been a hard year because their teachers show up every day and are giving it their all. So thank you. Next thing I wanted to say is whether there are opportunities for Tubman community engagement and support. In what I mean by that is opportunities for what we used to call maybe inquiry fair, maybe instead having, for our COVID reality, having grade band, opportunities for caregivers to come in and see and support students in their work. So to see, let's say some of their written work or poetry slam, or some opportunities for the students to be able to perform, whether it's through the talent show that Sam participated in when he was in 3rd grade and has been so looking forward to do again, or other opportunities for students to be able to participate and showcase their great work, and especially considering it's a performing arts cluster. So just wanted to say all those things and say thank you again to all of you, and we are here to support, and please let us know how we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Next up is Patty Lenkoff.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay? I'm just at Emma's soccer game, so I don't have my camera on. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Also, similar to a little bit of what Karen just said, but one thing I wanted to talk about was the middle school dance. Is this something that is still a possibility? I know we talked about it a little bit at the principal conversation last week, and I thought that something was going to happen this week, but I have not heard anything about that. So I just wanted to kind of follow up and see if someone could maybe clarify what the plan is for middle schoolers to get some kind of socializing back on the agenda in the way of a dance. That would be great. As a side note, I just wanted to give a massive shout out to both 6th grade teachers, Mr. Yang and Mr. Collins, for recognizing the need these kids have to infuse some fun back into the classroom. My son came home today so happy because both of these teachers did some fun and different activities in their classroom today, and they're also taking them on a little field trip tomorrow to the park. So kudos to 6th grade teachers for recognizing that need. Lastly, I guess I just want to follow up on also something that was discussed at principal conversation regarding drama and arts program with respect to performances, which is a little bit like what Karen mentioned. I know a lot of the North Side schools and beyond have had performances with an in-person audience for this school year. So I wanted to just ask if this is something that we can pull off before the end of the school year. I was also just wondering why we didn't attempt to do a school musical or even something on a smaller scale. This year, no information was sent out about that, so I just wanted to follow up. Is there something we as parents could do to support that program? Our students have missed performing and many would like to showcase their talents again. And as parents and caregivers, we would love to see them perform. So even if the talent show is a possibility, if you could let us know, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patty. Next up is Dana Carmen.
Hi, guys. I also just want to reiterate Karen and Patty's thoughts on thanking everybody for your time and commitment to the school this year. It really means a lot to the parent community, and just also kind of to follow up on what they were saying. I also was in attendance at the parent meeting on Friday, which was great. Thank you so much to Principal Gibson for her time. And there, you know, I think one of the big theme was sort of the sense of disconnection that a lot of families have been feeling this year. I think it's great. I heard some field trips are coming back, and that's awesome. But still hearing not as many parental involvement opportunities like chaperoning. I know it's tough to achieve too many things at one time, but you know, just would be great to give parents an opportunity to see what their kids are doing and to engage with them in school. I know it was always such a great experience for my kids when they were smaller. I'd also just wanted to say thank you so much for all the information from the PPLC. Really glad to hear that they'll be implementing math and SEL simultaneously next year. Would love to see a big SEL boost in middle school. And also great to hear that reading will be back on the table for discussion at the next meeting, and also that parents can attend. That's great. I saw from the notes that back in November it was discussed, and it looks like there are a lot of questions that Laura and I can probably actually help answer because we both took an intro class to Wilson. So we've actually had some training. So happy to answer those questions. In regards to a sense of urgency, I know that it's difficult, like I said, to implement too many things at one time. But when you can't read, you can't read. I mean, you can't do pretty much any subject at school. And it's a really difficult thing to watch a child struggle like that. I would think it would be a really difficult thing for an educator as well. So that's kind of where our sense of urgency comes from. And I really appreciate the team getting back on top of that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dana. Next up, it's S. Ogeto. Was that you, Sarah, or Simon?
I think it was.
Just says,
I think it was my husband, but I think he's going to pass.
okay. Thank you, Sarah. Next is Carl Golston. I know he was here earlier. Carl Golston. I don't see him. We can always call him again if he comes back. Ilana Rodriguez. No. Okay. Laura Franz. Is Laura here? Yeah, there you are.
Guys, hi. First, I'd just like to thank everybody for your time and commitment to the school. Really appreciate it. And also just to kind of spread some cheer, I'm not sure if people are aware, but April is actually the school library month. So when you see Mr. Laughlin, maybe just give him an extra thanks. And I was fortunate enough to be in there today to help with the book fair setup, and he's doing a wonderful job. So, you know, it's always nice to kind of, when those months come up, I like to shout them out. So thank you, Mr. Laughlin, for the school library. And also, Miss Moore, VP Moore, it is VP Appreciation Week. So thank you for everything that you've done. And we know that you really hustle in there and work so hard. So thank you during this specific week. I'll have to get you that special, that oatmeal milk coffee you were talking about this morning. So thank you for all your work. And Ms. Gibson and the rest of the team that has fought for the bilingual and the DL positions. That's very meaningful. So really appreciate you guys digging in, especially from a parent that utilizes those DL teachers and have nothing but admiration and respect for them. I'm so relieved to hear that you were able to fight and get that back. And just kind of curiosity, I can't help but wondering if you're able to, you've kind of spoken about it, the interventionist, but the seasoned teacher, and it's been decided, but are you able to share with us who that is? And then also just your monthly reminder for me about literacy, like just tagging on to Dana about happy to hear that math has been also important, but that has been taken care of, and getting literacy back on the agenda, as that impacts the SEL hugely. If you can't read, that really starts to affect your, sadly, your sense of self, and for kids and whatnot, it can really display in different ways. And yeah, there's holes, as it said in one of the notes for the 3Qing. And so I'm just happy to hear that that is being brought up. I would love to hear more about that as it continues to become more of a focus. So thank you again to everybody, and appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. That concludes public participation.
Thank you, everyone who signed up and shared their thoughts and questions. Principal Gibson, is there any you'd like to address at this time?
Yes, there are a few. So I just want to thank everyone for public participation. I really, really appreciate hearing your voices. Please know we welcome you at the PPLC meeting. So please join us on April 27th. Karen, thank you for bringing up the inquiry fair and just ways that caregivers can come in. We'll look into that and share those concerns and suggestions with our staff. As far as Patty, the social gatherings, there is a social gathering for middle school. 6th grade will be on a field trip tomorrow, but 7th and 8th will have a social gathering in the gym from 1 to 2:30. And if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to Ms. Kelsey Altieri. She's heading up that committee. Thank you all.
And Tina, I can address I know there were several who talked about like the arts and performing. And I know Patty, you had emailed Miss C and I the other day about that. So obviously we miss, a lot of the performances that we usually have as much as the parents and the community does. I know Miss C and I have been thinking about how to get students involved. The last couple of months, we've been coming up with a plan, and I am happy to say we are going to be running a musical theater club after spring break. More information will come out after spring break at report card pickup for our students to do kind of not a full musical, but they will be doing a kind of like a more of a Broadway showcase kind of thing. And again, we've been working on this for a couple of months. I will be, honest, the priority this year has been the health and safety of our staff, our students, our community. I know we were extremely happy to be able to have our dance show. We managed in the middle of a pandemic to have 362 students perform on that stage. And yes, it was, remotely for parents. But really that was one thing that Missy and I really pushed for this year, was to get those kids back on that stage. As you know, then January happened, where we were debating if it was even safe to return to in-person after winter break. And so the staff and the safety committee, we did make a decision not to have any large assemblies until spring break. So that is coming up tomorrow. And obviously things have improved. And so we were also waiting for vaccination rates. Now that we have over 85% of our students are fully vaccinated, which means, allowing these larger gatherings, these larger programs, being able to sing without a mask on, for example, that has been, something we've been waiting for. And as you mentioned, field trips have started again. Some of our after school programs, if anyone saw our K through 2 cheerleaders yesterday, performed for the parents in in that after school program. It was so wonderful to see those parents in the building. Again, I don't know if we're going to have a large scale assembly before the end of the year, but we are trying, and we do know how much the kids like to perform and how much we want them to perform. We miss it as much as you do. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Gibson. Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That's action items and next steps. And so what I have for tonight is we need to have a special meeting for the budget, and also a special meeting the last week of April for principal evaluation. Those agendas and the information to organize and will come from the LSC email to the council members. Any other action items, anyone? Okay, our next meeting date is the regular meeting date, which is May 4th. But like I said, special meetings will happen before then. But as far as for this agenda item, the next regular meeting is May 4th. It will be virtual at 6 p.m. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, please use your icon to vote. And that motion to adjourn passes unanimously. It's 7:34. Thank you, everyone on the council and in the community, for your engagement. Have a great night.